Hello, everybody. Guys, I want to say welcome to another episode of the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual AF podcast. This is episode number 11. And today we have the lovely Jessica Reed on. And we're going to be talking about law of attraction, manifestation. And have you ever found yourself in a position where you want to achieve a certain outcome, you want to manifest something, but you look around and all you see is the exact opposite of the life that you want to live? Well, how do you bridge that? How do you think and feel in those ways when everything around you shouts something totally different? So we're going to be covering that and lots of other really good goodies in this episode. So stay tuned and we'll see you after the little jingle.
Hey, you just turned into the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as F podcast. The show that aims to inspire, uplift, and questions everything. And now your hosts, Bart Rigel and Holly Emerson.
All right. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Today, we have the lovely Jessica Reed with us.
Yes.
Exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
So, we would like to actually get a little bit of background on you, Jessica. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your story?
Definitely. So I am a global clairvoyant channel and purpose fulfillment coach. And for anyone who doesn't quite understand what that means, a clairvoyant is basically, like I do readings in terms of connecting with spirit and connecting with source energy to receive visions and insights and guidance for people along their, soul's purposeful path and highest potentials and so on. And channeling is basically like tapping into those higher beings to bring through their information on more of a collective level. And, purpose fulfillment coaching is pretty self-explanatory.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's just basically a lot of people will ask, like, how did this start, or how did you know you were a clairvoyant, and so on. And I'll often explain that, like, when I was a toddler, I used to interact with spirit a lot, and I always thought it was just normal.
Yeah.
I would just think, oh, well, this person is a bit more, transparent, and they're not always around. But this person's a bit more, referring to humans, this person's a bit more dense or solid, and they're always around. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of didn't really think it was anything different in terms of spirits or energies and actual human beings until I went into like school and started, just like socializing and things like that, and started to realize that I was a bit strange, or that I saw things in very different ways. And like, we're at school learning about all the very kind of like 3D type of things, like that are just applicable in this realm. And I was kind of sitting there bored, thinking it was so simple, and wanting to know more about the universe, and
Sure.
and like what was out in the cosmos, and all types of things. So I was always kind of like the strange child. And then when I went through high school and those kind of like teenage years, I shut it all out because I was like, it's not cool. It's not.
Yeah, for sure.
No one else is doing this. It's not trendy to have ghost friends.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I kind of just like shut it out and was like, I just want to be cool. I just want to fit in. I just want to go to the parties and so on. And then by 18, I moved from New Zealand to Australia with my partner at the time and set up like a whole kind of lifestyle according to society, in terms of like, when we've spoken about this before with you guys, in terms of like, setting up the whole achieved lifestyle, and you can check all the boxes and blah blah blah, and looking around and feeling completely empty. And I could just feel my inner child, because when I was young, I had this vision of what my life was meant to be like. I could just feel my inner child in that space, in that lifestyle, just thinking like, well, this is disappointing. It looks good, but this is not what I had envisioned, or this isn't it. And this is kind of boring and feels numb. And all of a sudden, it was really truly like overnight. That's almost like my soul or my spirit team or source energy or something within me just said like, okay, like I've done that. I realized that it's unfulfilling and it's go time. And literally overnight, all of my gifts, all of, like channels for my gifts in terms of the clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all the kind of different senses, they just opened back up in full force, and I couldn't block it out anymore.
Wow.
And it sent me into like a real state of overwhelm and anxiety, because it was just
There's an
it
adjustment.
was just like downloading tons of information and energy with everything that I would be doing in a day-to-day life, and it was just intense. As like a human being, you go running to the doctor, you're like, something's wrong with me, like something's going on. I feel like just like I'm freaking out. I don't know what's going on with me. And I got prescribed, antidepressants and an aspirin inhaler to help me
Oh my goodness.
focus.
Amazing.
Because at one point I said, sometimes I get heavy breathing when I'd feel stressed. And so, I got antidepressants and an aspirin inhaler, got home, looked at it, and I could feel my soul almost just looking at it and being like, really? Like, that's a joke.
Hilarious.
That's not it. And so that's when I just started like inhaling books, like spiritual books, consciousness books, Hay House books especially, and just every spare minute of the day just absorbing all this information, and piece by piece it was just like remembering everything that I knew deep within as to how to connect with my soul, spirit, and source, and all the information that was coming through. And when I got into a balanced enough space to take some action, I kind of just looked at my life I set up and just said, like, no, like I'm going to just drop all of that, and I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to start again for my soul. And that's kind of just where it took up from. I started doing the meditation classes and channeled workshops, readings, and now.
Wow, no kidding.
That's awesome. So how long ago was that you picked up and decided to create this life from your soul?
I find it really hard I get like a really hard time associating with time. Like I can never remember like dates or years or whatever, but I think this must have been nearly 3 years ago now.
Wow.
Time's an illusion anyway.
It totally is. In human time, do you recall?
Yeah, in human measure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and how was the reaction of your family and friends like during this whole transition period?
Well, I've definitely like shifted in terms of my social circle. You know, like it just kind of like the wavelengths changed, and I started attracting different people in, and the people that I would previously have been friends with, they were never like, I never had any kind of negative backlash. I never had anyone like, what are you doing? Or, but I could definitely sense sometimes it would be like, okay, Jess is up to something. Jess is going on her own little path. But really it was just coming back to being my real self. But my family's always been supportive, and my parents have known since I was a toddler, obviously, because they were always like, okay, this child's from a different world.
They get
she's
you.
Special. Let's just go off in her own world and do her own things. So yeah. That was pretty
cool.
good for the most part.
So you actually see beings.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you see and hear, and can you feel them, or?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
cool.
Feeling's a big thing. Well, often, like, what will happen is if there's an energy that is, say, for example, like a past loved one that is around, like someone else that I'm either doing a reading for or that I'm just around, past loved ones will often get my attention by giving me the physical experience of their passing.
Wow.
Which can be quite intense sometimes, but it definitely gets my attention.
Yeah.
Which took a while to figure out. I thought I was just a hypochondriac, having all these symptoms in my body every day as I was kind of going through life.
Wow.
But then once I actually started tuning into the experiences going on, it's like it happens in your body, but it's more in your energy body. Like you feel it going on. and your
But
energy
is
body.
it
It's like the transfer.
do you find it like a subtle difference between your physical body and your energy body? So it took some time to adjust and know which one was which?
Yeah, definitely. So say for example, like, it's hard to explain, but I'll just try. So for instance, a lot of the time it'll be the physical things that have happened that have been like illnesses, or say heart attacks or strokes or cancer, or there'd be like their lungs would have been giving out, or just different types of symptoms. And so it's like I have the feeling, let's just say for example a stroke, it's like I have the feeling of, say, half of my body going a bit numb or limp, but I know I can still physically move all of my body, but it's like I get this sense of like thinking that I can't. If that makes sense, it's almost like in my energy body I get this sense of like, oh, that side of my energy body feels like numb or limp or unresponsive, and that side, like in my headspace, feels like it's kind of glitching. But I can know for myself, like, okay, I'm not actually having a stroke. I know I'm not having a stroke right now, but I can feel the experience of it energetically going on in my energy body, which is very close to my physical body. But there's quite a distinction. Like, I mean, you would know if you were physically having a heart attack.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, I'll just energetically feel like the tension, the kind of like in the heart space, like just see like the energetic tension, or the my arm will go limp or numb, or it's like you feel it but you don't physically experience it. But that'll get my attention, and then I'll start communicating with them like, okay, what do you want?
Okay.
and then that symptom will go away because they've got my attention. And once I can like communicate to the person what their energy is showing me, and they confirm that that's how they passed or has something to do with their passing, then everything kind of just flows on from there because it's being validated, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So does this only happen to you when you're doing a reading for somebody, or can you just be out and about in your day and this happens and there's a spirit that wants to communicate with you, and then you have to find who they want you to communicate with?
Yeah, it definitely can. Unless sometimes if I'm going out somewhere and I just create the intention of like, actually, I'm going to go out and I'm just going to be a human. Like, I'm just going to be Jessica, and I'm going to go enjoy myself. I'm going to go do some shopping, or I'm going to, go socialize with my friends. And it's almost like clocking off.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm just in the physical human experience right now. Closing hours, like just a really kind of soft boundary, as in like, okay, just respect my space. Like, I'm not open for calls right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's got to be really important, setting those boundaries.
I imagine.
But sometimes it can be interesting when it does just kind of come through, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no kidding. Strange.
That's interesting. So have you had support in this journey of helping like your gifts unfold, or has all the support come from spirit? Like, do you have like a teacher in the physical that you ask questions with or get guidance from, or is it just all through your own clairvoyance and channeling?
For me, it's been an experience of like having breadcrumbs along the way in the human experience, in terms of whether it be books or teachers or guides, but it's all just being like breadcrumbs that have brought back in a remembering on a soul level. So it's kind of like I already had it all on a soul level, but there have been certain bits and pieces of the puzzle in this human experience that have activated those rememberings. But yeah, I believe that's the same for most of us, in terms of we've already got it on a soul level, but we just need little activators in this human experience to remind us.
Yeah. Some people have like more activators, like yourself. Like, I don't have the same sort of experience as you.
We all have different experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love it. It's very, I think of it as like just a normal everyday thing now, which for some people that can sound really strange.
That's really cool.
I love it though. I think the world is actually full of a lot more strange people than we we ever imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in this experience, we really don't know anything. We think we do.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, there's so much more going on than we give credit for. It's pretty crazy.
I love how I can't remember who said it one time, but someone it might have even been like an Einstein quote or something. It was just basically like, if any man ever claims he has like the theory of life, that man is an idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like no one is ever, going to have the theory of life, because I believe that like the universe is expanding every millisecond, like because people are projecting new thoughts and ideas and things are being created in every moment, and so there's never going to be like just a standing still theory of how life works.
Oh yeah.
It's always going to
absolutely
science changes all the time, so we're never really going to get it all. And that's the
No.
fun of it too.
Yeah, there's an infinite number of possibilities.
Definitely, which I think is fun. I don't want to know it all.
No, exactly. That's part of the joy, just discovering this whole journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mystery of life. Like, how fun is that?
Yeah, totally.
Totally. Now, talking about this journey and living life to the fullest. We wanted to talk to you about manifesting and using the law of attraction to create a certain life, because it's all great when we're talking about like life is so fun to experience all these things, but when you're dealing with heartache or financial stress or disease, well, I mean that's not a fun experience.
No.
So
for sure.
Can you tell us, what is your experience and how does the process actually work?
And just to kind of like relate on that point, I've definitely kind of experienced that in the sense of when I was in Australia and when I did have all my gifts kind of opening back up, and I was in such a state of overwhelm and anxiety. That was like a point of which where there were a lot of suicidal thoughts in terms of just struggling so much to try and get control over my own, mind and my own processing, that I thought it would just be easier to not be here, So I never want people to think that I've just, got this lifestyle of, just doing what I want to do and traveling around the world and manifesting things as if it's just being kind of like magically turned up, like a really, really low point. And through knowing the laws of attraction, I'm remembering how to actually get back a sense of creative control of my life. That is how I've gotten to this place. It didn't just turn up. And with law of attraction, for me, there's so many ways that it can be explained, and there's so many ways that it can get really kind of like intricate and almost confusing and so on. But for me, it's really about, and I think Wayne Dyer put it best, it's like you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And so the way that you really hold your energy, frequency, and vibration through the power of your consciousness, which is your thoughts, your beliefs, your perceptions, the things you're paying attention to, that which you're really kind of like aligned with, and you'll feel it through your feelings and your emotions, that which you're really aligned with is what you are going to be putting out into the universe, and that's what the universe is going to reflect back to you. So if you're feeling, let's just say in reference to money, if you're feeling dissatisfied, if you're feeling fearful, if you're feeling lackful, if you're feeling like just feeling really kind of like a low vibration about money, then that's the way that you're being in relation to money, and then that's going to reflect back to you from the universe in terms of a not so good experience with money, But if you're consciously, actively focusing on learning, even if you have none, if you're consciously focusing on feeling in love with money and all the possibilities that money can bring and all the freedom that money can bring, and seeing it as like a divine resource that is supporting you in life, and really feeling into that space as much as you can, that's then what you're going to receive back as a reflection from the universe. So it is relevant to all areas in life and all aspects of manifestation. For me, it's just really like, what are you holding as who you are in relation to these different areas of your life, or these things that you're manifesting? And if it's a strong, positive feeling and connection, then that's what's going to quite easily come into your experience.
So I have a question on that, because I can hear people already saying, well, it's great. It's great when, you want to feel that and think it, but, I have this giant backache and it's kind of hard to ignore. How do you shift from, being in that situation of lack or disease or whatever, to a place where you're able to give off that vibe, that energy, that being of health, abundance, and so on?
I would think of it as like a gradual shifting through the scale of emotions, because it's very, and I completely understand what you're saying in terms of people feeling like that's just not kind of achievable, in terms of like if you're at the really low end of emotions in relation to something, in terms of like the fear or the victimization or the hopelessness or whatever that emotion might be, or the anger, it's very hard to get from that place to like a place of joy and love about that certain situation, because there's such different energy frequencies and vibrations. So I would focus on like, how can you work your way up the emotional scale in relation to that? So say if you've got like a really bad backache going on and it's hard to ignore, it's going to be a hell of a job trying to feel joyful about it. It's going to be a hell of a job trying to be in love with it, or feel healthy. But how can you just kind of move from a space of, rather than because you might be kind of like complaining to your body, like, why are you doing this to me? Or, like kind of just hating on your body for the pain that it's giving you. And how can you just even move to a space of like, you might even just be saying like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm in pain right now, but I'm grateful that I have a body. I'm grateful that there is potential for healing. I'm grateful that this is not going to be the reality for the rest of my life, if you know what I mean by that. Like, even just if you move into a space from hating on your body or feeling like completely hopeless or completely victimized or completely angry about the situation, even if you can just take like one step into a slightly more positive approach, and then how can you go like one step further and one step further and one step further? Because it doesn't help anyone if someone's in a really low place and then you just say to them, oh, just get happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that doesn't help. It doesn't help. But if you can say to them, tell me one thing you're grateful for, even though you're in this situation, tell me one thing you're grateful for, that's going to bring them just one step closer up the emotional scale. And, it's just kind of like a thing from going from victimization or fear or victimization to, like you might get angry, but then you might just let that be frustration, and then you might just let that be a little bit of kind of disappointment, and then you might move into more of a place of like hopefulness, and then kind of just feeling average about it, and then feeling like okay about it, and then feeling a bit better about it, and then feeling like actually this could actually take quite a positive turn, and then eventually getting up to a place of alignment and joy and love with it. But yeah, I get it when people are like, I can't just get from here to there right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I like what you said there about taking that example of pain in your back and just being grateful that you have a body, because I'm a big believer that manifesting starts with gratitude. And so sometimes when you kind of chunk it down to like the small things of what you can be grateful for, it does make it easier to take that first step and then the next step. And so I really like how you shared that.
Yeah, and anything that can just switch your attention from the really, really, really negative focus, and it might even just be, rather than hating on your body and saying, why are you doing this to me? You might just ask the question like, how can I support you to heal and get better? And taking that approach, like how can I work with my body so that we can feel better, rather than thinking that your body's doing something to you. Because you move from victimization to a bit of hopefulness, you know?
Yeah, and those small actions are always so much easier to take, right? You know, go for a walk and, you know, just look at the sunset and be grateful that you're alive. You know, just something small like that. Like anybody can get outside and, you know, watch the sunset once. Right?
And just be grateful for your breath even.
Yeah, the small things.
Small things, yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, you have a course and it's titled Manifesting by Quantum Leaps, or in Quantum Leaps. And
this is a quantum leaping course.
Okay, quantum leaping course. I'm just curious to know, like, explain this quantum leaping and tell us about this course, because I think it sounds very interesting.
I'm really excited to share about it because it's something that I know works because of my own experience with it, in terms of before I created this course, it was something that my spirit guides taught to me and that I trialed and played with for a long time and saw the results before I created the course, right? And for me, quantum leaping, you know, I've done in-person, you know, live workshops, and they take like 5 hours to completely explain the process. But if I were to put it into brief, quantum leaping for me is about, say for example, people can learn a lot about quantum physics and the law of attraction, and then they can start applying it in their lives. But a lot of the time people feel blocked in terms of like their soul and their spirit understands it and is ready to go kind of forward with it. But then the mind is like sitting there going, hey, wait for me, I don't understand. Like, I can't work this out. I don't trust it. It's not logical. I don't see a structure to this. Like, I don't see how this is going to create me a result. So I can't get on board. You know what I mean? You've had those experiences before when like you're like, I know I can manifest this through just my being and my alignment with it. But then you hear your mind going, oh, sure, great.
No, you can't.
You know, the mind's going like, dreams are free. So quantum leaping for me is about bringing in the embodiment of utilizing the power of both, you know, and giving the mind a very kind of logical step-by-step process as to how to get a quantum leap, how to get from here to there, which is your, you know, desired future reality as such. And the process is really all about realizing, you know, within the course I explain quantum physics and how it all works and so on, but you guys know that. And it's just taking it to this new level where basically you're understanding that what it is you desire, let's just say it's a lifestyle, what it is that you desire is already a parallel reality within your consciousness. Do you guys get what I mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we understand it, but let's explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, just because there might be some people listening who don't.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So what I mean by a parallel reality within your consciousness already existing within you is that you already have, just by desiring that lifestyle, there's already a part of you that has already kind of gone there on a level of aligning with that consciousness. But you here in your physical being and your human experience is still kind of holding on to certain conditionings or limitations or fears around it. It can desire it, but it can also you hold it back at the same time. But with the quantum leaping process, it's about connecting into that space within your consciousness, that part of your being that's already gone there, is already in that parallel reality. And a parallel reality really is just a parallel state of consciousness, because a state of consciousness creates a reality, right? So it's like tapping into that parallel reality or parallel state of consciousness. Or you might think of it as like your future self who's already there. And through tapping into that space, within the actual quantum leaping process, what we do is we go there and we pick up all the levels of, I think of them as like keys or ingredients, all the levels of consciousness that exists as like a state of consciousness in that parallel reality. And then we really focus on what is the energy and frequency and vibration in that space, and how can I embody that state of consciousness and that energy, frequency, vibration more on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a lot of worksheets to go along with it in terms of you start comparing what's your current state of consciousness, what are your current thoughts and beliefs and perceptions and, views on life, and what are your current limitations and fears and so on. And then you compare that right next to your list of the state of consciousness from the parallel reality or the desired future reality. And you start looking at it, and your brain can kind of, your mind can get on board and say like, okay, cool. So, this is my current state of consciousness, and that's creating my current reality. And I actually switch into, consciously taking on the state of consciousness of my parallel reality. I can see how that would then start creating my new reality. Do you know what I mean? So the mind can go like, okay, side by side comparing, this fear that I have now doesn't exist in my parallel reality or my future reality. Got to get rid of it.
Sure.
And you find a way somehow to really heal or shift that fear. Or the mind can look at it and think, okay, so this thought, belief, and perception that exists in my parallel reality, my future self, I'm not currently thinking, I'm not currently perceiving, I'm not currently believing. I need to consistently practice bringing that into my state of consciousness. And you start to see how you've got like a step-by-step action plan as to how you're going to shift from here to there by like drawing out what's going on within your consciousness and what is going on within the consciousness of your desired parallel reality or future self. And you realize like this is the shift I need to make, and that will create a quantum leap because I'm shifting my quantum physics.
Yeah, totally. It's like what people need to realize is that we're really looking at like a vertical kind of shift, right? It's not linear shift here in like time space reality, but it's a very vertical thing. So if these different as far as like what I'm hearing you say is there's like multiple layers, like multiple realities existing at any one particular time, and we simply like tune in to that higher frequency when we're ready, and that's that shift.
And when we start to consciously align with the thoughts, perceptions, beliefs, and energy, frequency, and vibration of that new level or that new layer, and it's kind of like thinking of it in terms of there are like infinite amounts of parallel realities within you, infinite amounts of different states of consciousness that you can choose to embody, and whichever one you're currently choosing to embody is what one is going to be reflecting in your reality. But you can choose to consciously quantum leap to a different one and experience a different reality.
Yeah,
like it's all already within us.
Yeah, it's
just
really interesting.
Just waiting for us.
It's really interesting when you do that. Like I've had it where I've shifted and then suddenly someone's interacting with me in a completely different way, an unexpected way. Like my mom, for example. My mom and I have had an interesting relationship, and I would expect certain responses from her, like if I emailed her, and then I had been working on this manifesting and just shifting my own reality. And then one day I emailed her and she responded in this weird way, but it was a really nice, refreshing new way. And I was like, wow, this is like the mom on this other reality.
Yeah, it's like that parallel version of your relationship with her.
Yeah.
Because it can be, anything that you align with it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite a perfect example is how, you were saying that story of that guy that would just show up to the workplace as if he was already an expert, and it was like his first day. Is that how you
That's
explained
right.
it? And
Yeah, it was the mortgage broker in Canada, and he showed up. It was like for the people that didn't hear the conversation we had with Jessica a few weeks ago. There was a broker in Canada who it was brand new, fresh to the job, didn't really know what the heck he was doing, but he started presenting himself as an expert. and he started writing posts and making videos talking about mortgages in Canada. And all of a sudden, because he positioned himself like an expert, one of the news channels decided they wanted to interview him for like a mortgage segment on the news. And sure enough, he stepped up. And from that point on, he was one of the most successful, and even till now, he's one of the most successful mortgage brokers in Canada. And he basically just embodied that energy. He embodied that other reality, even though he wasn't even there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like, things just switched within weeks of him just starting. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that as like, when people just know that they're capable of being a certain version of themselves, like he probably right from the start was just like, I know I can like be an amazing, master in this field. Like I can, like he probably could just feel it within himself. Like I know I can do this. And so he just decided, rather than looking at, oh, well, I'm just starting, just decided to just show up in the way that he knew he could, regardless of where he was at technically, And I'm sure like a lot of people listening, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this as well, is like we've all taken quantum leaps at some point in our life, whether we know it or not. And I just encourage people to think about a time where they, when you've just kind of had a certain dream about something and just knowing that it's part of you, and just knowing that even though you're not technically like that person yet, you just know it's already like a version of you waiting to be expressed. And so you find it so easy to just kind of like step into, because you know it's already part of you. And that's essentially quantum leaping, because you're just deciding that is who you're showing up as, and then that reflects in your reality because you're stepping into that consciousness, Like I think in terms of because I'm writing my book proposal at the moment. I've never written a book before, but there's a part of me that is already projected as like a best-selling author. Like I already know that's a part of me just waiting to be embodied and expressed and lived out, So I go forward with the proposal with like complete confidence, because I'm like, she's already in there. Like she's already within me. She's already got it all sorted. I'm just kind of catching up in this human space-time reality. You know what I mean? Like it's just, when you feel that, you feel like there's just no doubt at all when you can tap into that version of yourself that's already there and trust her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, something that I think we need to do more frequently is, talk about these stories of how people have manifested something in reality, something that's, you can't deny, because that's when humanity as a whole is able to start understanding, and they start questioning, well, maybe there's something to this. I use a story occasionally where it was, so it was a group of 4 friends, and they went to a casino in Niagara Falls in Ontario, and they ended up winning $50,000. Between the 4 of them, I think they pulled like one of those little slot machines, and they won $50K, and they were super excited. So they're driving back home from the casino at like 12 in the morning, whatever it was. And they're like, you know what? We're like on top of the world. Let's buy a lottery ticket. And they ended up winning $50 million that night.
Wow.
Like, they were just embodying this energy of like being lucky and just being like happy and excited. And that very same, like, what are the chances of that? Like that's
amazing.
That's bizarre.
That's incredible. Yeah, that is bizarre. And I love like being so playful with it too, in terms of one time is like one example, and this was before I really even learned a whole lot about law of attraction. It was just this one time when I was applying for a job. This was before I started doing my work, and I was applying for a job, and I really wanted that job for some reason. I was just like, yep, I just really want that job. And so I just decided to just go into the space of basically like writing about what it's like to work there, and just would like think about it a lot and daydream about kind of just all the fun things about it and so on. And then I just kind of felt this feeling of like, I know I've already got it. It's just in the bag, like it's just
For
there.
sure.
I can feel it like energetically, frequency, vibrationally aligned. And so I remember I actually did my application. I was waiting, and then I decided to just email the HR lady. And I did this cheeky email. I said, "Hi, it's your new receptionist. Just wondering if I've got the job. Like, is that sorted yet? Like, wondering like when can I start, kind of thing."
Yeah.
Because I was just so sure that I was just like, I know I've got this job. It's already mine. And yeah, so I just sent this cheeky email like, "Hey, it's your new receptionist. When am I starting? What's my start date?" And
love
she
that.
and I later found out that at that point there were 80 applications that they were processing through, and apparently they just looked at that email and just said, "Okay, it's her," and just messaged me back and was like, "Okay, you got the job," and I was like, "Yeah, I know." It's just like one of those things when you align with it so much that it's such like before manifestation is almost like the most exciting part, because you can feel it and know it with no physical evidence of it yet, and yet have like no doubt about it. Like that's what I find so exciting.
That's super cool. I love that.
I love that too.
Yeah. And I remember I like, because you know how as kids we would naturally just know how the law of attraction works, or would just naturally be very intuitive. I always remember like one time we had like school assembly. Is that what you guys call it?
Yeah, same.
Like everyone gets together in the big hall, and we had like awards and so on. And there was this like award for acknowledging like at each assembly they would like acknowledge a student for really kind of good work or being well behaved and stuff. And I remember like just walking into the hall that day and just sitting there and looking at it and just thinking, "You're mine." Like just being like, it's mine today. I know it. And then I remember when they went up and went to present it and they called my name, I was just like, "Yes!" I knew it. Like you get up and you kind of like strut walk.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's mine.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that aspect of the law of attraction like so much, and just like knowing things is just because you're so sure of your alignment with it. It's just so exciting.
Yeah, totally. I can relate to that. I figure skated growing up, and for part of that, I was a competitive figure skater. And now I know how I did it, because I always would get like first or second. And it was like, I knew it was a competition, and I knew you would get medals, and there was a podium involved and all that. And it was just like, I just knew, like for me, there wasn't any other option. And it wasn't like an arrogant kind of thing. It was just like, oh, you just go and you skate, you do your solo, and then you get a medal.
Yeah.
It was like, that's just how it works. It doesn't work any other way. And so I always got a medal. But then actually, as I grew up and my mind started to play into it, then I started doing worse. I would get like third place.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, there's only one first place. Like I knew there was only one, but it was just, I don't know, somewhere in my being, there wasn't really any option to receive any other medal. And then I realized, you could actually not get first, and you could
start doubting it.
Yeah, so the doubt came in.
And you also put pressure on it rather than just like align with it. I remember when it's just like these simple things, like when I was traveling through Europe, I was in Amsterdam at one point, and I remember like before I was having these dreams of like finding cash. And I just found it like so fun. Not necessarily about the actual money. It was just like I found like some gold, like a little bit of a treasure finder. And then like following those days after like having those dreams, I was just walking down the street, and I'd be walking down the street, and like clear as day, like right in the middle of the pathway would be like a 20 €20 note just like sitting in the path. And I'd just be looking at it and looking around at all the other people walking by and just being like,
does nobody else see
what?
this?
And this happened on 3 occasions, like within a time frame of like 2 weeks. And then, but I felt by like the 3rd occasion, I started thinking like, where's the next one going to come from? And like, oh, I wonder how much it's going to be and stuff like that. And I started getting too much like mind involved and it stopped. I didn't find money after that. You know what I mean? Like I got too like, rather than just being in like the alignment and the fun of it and just the kind of like the just kind of playfulness with it, I started getting like it needs to show up now. Like, you know, like I'm expecting it in like a more kind of attachment way. Or like another example I love is, say for instance, my dad, he's been like a really good example of law of attraction for me. Because my dad's like the most, I always say he's like cool as a cucumber. Like he's just, he's just so chilled out, relaxed all the time. He doesn't stress about anything. And he's just known between like all like the family and friends as like the lucky one, like quote lucky one.
For sure.
But because everyone just like, I mean, when I was in my mum's belly, like when she was pregnant with me, he went on this show called Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, and he went on there and he won the grand prize and everything. He didn't really talk to people about it much, but I remember him telling me a couple of years ago, he's like, yeah, I visualized winning it before I went on there. And I was like, cool, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like, that's wicked. But everyone else just thought he was just lucky. And then ever since then, he's just always the person. Like, he's always the person when, if there's like a raffle ticket thing going on or just something, he always wins it. And it's not, he doesn't even really care too much about it either. You know, he's just like, cool. It's like he's like you were saying about, like, you just kind of get in that vibe and it just seems like that it would just be natural for that to happen. And he's the person that at Christmas time, he has to like try and give away hams to people because he's just winning too many of them and he can't keep them in his fridge. You know, like, and this is kind of like a funny story like associated with that. He went to this place where they play it's like a bar type thing, and my little sister's friend, she was working there and she was running this raffle ticket thing and she had 1 ticket left and she was trying to sell it and no one would buy it, and she saw my dad walk in and she was like, Paul, can you just please like just buy this raffle ticket because I just need to get rid of it, like it's the last one, I need to sell it. And he was like, oh, okay, sure, like here's $2 or whatever. And then he went up and sat by the bar or whatever, and then she came back running up to him later on and she's like, you won't believe it, you won with that last ticket.
Amazing.
And he's just like, cool.
Of course.
Of course I did. You know, he's just always like the quote lucky one. But I believe it's truly just because he's just so like
chill about it.
With it. Like, yep, that's just, you know, he has no resistance around. He has no resistance around it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, something that you mentioned, this whole concept that we're talking about is, you know, the concept of surrender, because I think a lot of people, you know, it's easy to say like, yeah, of course I want these things. Like, yeah, I want the new car. Like, yeah, I want that job. And they truly want it. So why isn't the universe bringing it to me? Why am I not manifesting it in my reality? Well, you know, if you want something so desperately, there's this underlying fear that you're not going to get it. And if you're not going to get it, it's not going to be good. You're going to feel like crap. So that's that thought. That's actually like the sponsoring thought. I think Neil Donald Walsh calls it the sponsoring thought. That pushes away that very thing that you want. So, you know, in this whole process, I think it's so important to embody surrender and just letting the outcome go. Yes, you want these things, but at the same time, if you want it that bad, you're going to be pushing it away. There's a book, one of my favorite books is Course in Miracles. And it says that infinite patience produces immediate results. So when you're so patient that you can wait an infinity to get that particular thing, you're going to get it immediately because there's no attachment. But as soon as you're attached, you're screwed.
Yeah, if you're sitting there going, universe, I need it right now.
Yeah.
The universe is going like, well, you're in your own way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think like a really kind of good, or just really common example of that, well, two examples is like, there's such a difference between wanting something and desperately needing it, and actually just being it and just being like, I got it, it's coming. Like, and I'm, like you said, I'm impatient because I don't need it to show it to me right now to let me know that it's already, you know, aligned. Like, I already know it's aligned, and I'm just going to let it come the way it's going to come in its best form, you know. But I think another kind of like great common example of that is I find a lot of people around, say, relationships, a lot of people really, 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 really want their soulmate, you know, like they really want it, and it gets to this point where they're like, I need a soulmate in order to enjoy life, you know, like I need a soulmate to go traveling, or I need, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's this like really like needy thing that puts condition on enjoying any other aspect of their life because they don't have anyone to enjoy it with. You know what I mean? And that's such like a common example. Where there is like that's just such a space of awareness that they're not there yet. You know, and that space is probably one of the worst spaces that you can be in for the law of attraction is to want something so bad that you feel that you need it and that you're not happy without it, and be constantly aware that it's not there yet. That's like just like a holding space.
Even if you were to find a partner, I mean, that's the fastest way to push them away. So you might get them for you know, bits and pieces here and there, but I mean, ultimately to find like a true long-term love and connection, you have to be in a space where even if they are in your experience, you're willing to let them go. It's that same energy.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like I always like to share with relationships in terms of, you know, if you really think there's this like happier version of yourself in a relationship with your soulmate, they're going to find you a lot easier if you're already in that space. You know, if you know,
vibrating at that.
Likely, and it kind of like your soulmate is looking for that version of you. But if you're sitting around, you know, stressing out and going like, you know, I need a man, I need this, I need blah, 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 blah. They're not going to see you. They're going to be like, oh, she's in a weird mood today. If you know what I mean, like, oh, she's got a strange vibe going on, or icky vibes coming from over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
people pick up on that.
That's a great way to describe it, actually. Yeah, because it's not about like.
They're not going to see you.
Yeah, exactly. They won't see you. They'll just see you for the energy that you have now that they don't want to resonate with.
Yeah, they're not on the same wavelength. So
exactly,
they're not going to make a connect. You know.
Yeah.
But if you're already just like, well, if I think there's a happier version of myself in a relationship, why don't I just actually start being that version of myself now, regardless of conditioning as to someone else needing to be there or not? And then you're most probably going to be showing up in the world as a very, very, very attractive person for your actual soulmate, because they're going to look at you and be like, wow, she's pretty. She's got it going on.
Yeah, she's got great energy. She's confident.
She's got great energy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
and what we
well, I was just curious because we were talking about manifesting there, and you know, the thought crossed my mind too about talking about when you manifest and your intention or what you want to manifest or what you think you need to manifest is in alignment with your soul or higher purpose or divine purpose, you have a tendency to manifest that quicker. Now, what about people who now take a person, for example, you know, in relationship, they want to be with, Susie wants to be with Johnny, but Johnny's not in her, like it's not her calling to be with him. Right? Like, how do you, because there's a lot of people who are just trying to manifest something that they're not meant to manifest.
Yeah, something very specific. Right? It's like, I want that person.
Yeah, or like, do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think of other examples, but it's just not like, for me, I wanted abundance in wealth in my early 20s and all through all my life, really. But my intention before was like, I want to manifest money, because if I have money, then I can do X, Y, Z. You know, I can finally live the life that I want to live. Whereas, you know, I've realized, okay, no, I just need to live the life I want to live, and my needs will be met, whatever they are. But I think the
specifics aren't necessarily, like, you're not thinking specifics.
Yeah.
You're thinking a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, there might be people watching and they might be like, okay, well, I want to manifest, you know, this person or this job, but it's not maybe in their highest like soul contract for that. So then what do you think happens?
So yeah, I definitely agree. Like, if something's in your like soul, like alignment with your purpose and your highest path, and it's, you know, like a soulmate, or it's something that's kind of, you know, quote, destined. You know, I don't think of it as like the future's set in stone, but something that's just like meant to be for your highest good. That's going to manifest a lot quicker, because there is a stronger internal knowing that it's like you just find it so much easier to align with, because there's a part of you deep within that's already like, I already know that that's kind of part of my contract, or I already just feel it within. Like I've had a calling towards it ever since I was, you know, 5 years old. Like, there's very little resistance around manifesting something that is already in alignment with your soul and your highest path, because the part of you already is there. You know,
it's like a magnet. A stronger magnet,
stronger magnet, yeah, definitely. And like, say with what you were saying about in terms of like the specifics and so on, I think there needs to be definitely like a focus in terms of it's not like the specific things, it's the feeling that it achieves for you, in terms of like, if it was a person that you're trying to manifest, like a partner, rather than saying, I want him to have dark hair and blue eyes and I need him to be tall, I would more so focus on, this man is so attractive to me. You know what I mean? Because that's a totally different vibration. If you're trying to like, make it like a hair color and a eye color and blah blah blah, that's not really like a feeling. That's like it's like a material thing, or it's like a but focusing on the fact that they're going to be attractive to you, you can get into that feeling. You can get into that feeling of just kind of like Googling at someone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
It's like, oh my God, he's so hot. You know, you don't really get a feeling around brown hair.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
It's not about those little things. It's about what the real essence of it is that you're ultimately wanting. You're not wanting him because he has brown hair. You're wanting you're wanting someone who is attractive to you. But yeah, Holly, with what you were saying in terms of like when people are manifesting something that's out of alignment with them, or that's not kind of like meant to be along their path, I feel like it will just, for me personally, I just feel like it will come up with a lot of like challenges around it, kind of thing. Like, it might show up first in a way where it looks like it's something that you're wanting to manifest, but then all these kind of realizations come from it, and you're like, okay, this all looks great, but it's completely unfulfilling. You know, like we were talking about earlier, like you might think it's that you're wanting, and you can probably manifest that, but it's going to kind of like feel disappointing, because you're going to feel that there's like a soul level of unfulfillment, or just knowing that it's discontent with it. But I feel like when you're in that specific alignment with what's meant to be for you, and you know it on a soul level, you just align with it so much faster, so much more momentum. And I think it's also, there's a deep part of like the worthiness aspect. It's kind of like, if you know it on a soul level that it's part of what's meant to be for you, you don't really question whether you're worthy of it. But when you're wanting something that's not on your path, then I feel like a lot more of those worthiness questions and resistances come into play. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I also think, like, if you really want to manifest something and you're really genuine about it, if you take the time to just kind of pause and ask yourself, like, what part of my being wants to manifest this? Is it my ego? Like, is it my head? Am I thinking all these things would be really good? Or is it like a genuine feeling from like my heart center and my soul that's wanting this?
And and when you can kind of know that it's coming from a soul level and it's coming from like a purpose level, I think you pull it in and you receive it so much easier because you feel like you're in a space of like, it's right to be able to have that, if you get what I mean, because you've got like good intentions with it. Whereas if you're kind of manifesting from the ego space, I feel like there's a lot of there may be like a certain factor of guilt around trying to manifest something that is coming from like a shallow place, or do you know what I mean by that? It's like when it's coming from your soul and your heart, you just feel like it's right for you to call that in and receive it. So, for example, like a lot of the time, this is what we were talking about it last time, in terms of like when you're manifesting like something for yourself, in terms of, let's just say money. If you're like really focusing on like I want more money for myself, for my lifestyle, blah blah blah, it's kind of harder to manifest them if you were to say for example, like one of your family members was ill and they needed a surgery or something like that, and they needed the money for it. If you were just to be coming from that space of like just truly knowing that it is good for a good purpose to call in that money and that resource, it's like you have more of you feel just more right in calling it in and receiving it, because you know that it's in the highest good.
Exactly. That's such a good point. When you're trying to manifest that one specific Lexus, think about what it is that you actually want out of it. Like, is it to show off, in front of your friends, and it's going to make you feel better because it's like an ego thing, or is it truly aligned with something different? Is it truly aligned with your joy? Like, if you're a car nut and like you genuinely love that feeling of driving fast on a curvy road, and it's going to bring you that joy and passion for what it is that you really love, absolutely. That's very different than it's like, I want to show off, Bob here. Yeah. Bob's got the new model. Damn Bob.
Exactly.
Always showing off his new cars.
Yeah, it's so funny. I like used that pretty much exact example like a few years ago in a workshop. I remember because people were like, "So what is it? What is it like when it comes to manifesting things like material objects, like fancy cars and stuff?" And I said the same thing. I was like, "Don't focus on just the kind of thing of like, so I can look cool or have a fancy car." It's more like get into that space of like, I love the comfort of these seats, and I love like the power that's beneath my foot, and I love the precision of this mechanical, just design. You know what I mean? Like just enjoying the experience of it and the way it kind of makes you feel, apart from ego. And it's okay to want to feel luxurious and to feel comfortable and to feel like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's okay to just feel like I enjoy feeling like everything's just so delicious.
Exactly. It's the physical experience is delicious.
It is, yeah.
We are very lucky to be here in these bodies, in this experience, having what we're having now. And we often forget that, and we confuse it with something very different, unfortunately. And then that's when it becomes a much bigger, deeper struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Manifesting is just like the best topic.
It's fun. It's fun.
So going back to your Quantum Leaps course, how long is the course, and is it like all online, or how does that work?
Yeah, how do people find you?
So it's a self-study course. It's something that's full of video. There's actually first a channeling from my spirit guides about how they explain Quantum Leaping and their intention of sharing that information. And then there's training video worksheet, and then the actual full Quantum Leaping meditation process where you actually journey internally into that space of that version of yourself who's already there. And then there's also like an express version of it if you want to practice it more on like a daily basis. And yeah, so it's all in there together, and it's all accessible at like any point. You can study at your own pace.
Awesome.
And I'll be giving you guys a link, which you can post in the comments to receive the 50% off of the course.
Yeah, that's awesome. So anybody listening who is excited about this course, I think you should click the link and you get the 50% off, like Jess said. So
we'll post it in the resource section of this episode. So it'll be spiritninjas.com/episode 11.
Oh, I love 11.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Perfect.
Exciting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I love co-creating with you too.
Oh, us as well. It's so lovely to talk to you, and it's great. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back again because this is fun. There's so much more to talk about.
I know.
We could like ramble on for 2 hours.
Definitely. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, Jess. Enjoy your day.
You too.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast. Make sure to tune in next time for more deep conversations to uplift, inspire, and blow your mind. Spiritual as fuck.